Warning, this content may be upsetting or disturbing to some audiences. What is the creepiest/most disturbing internet rabbit hole you've gone down, and why? A sci-fi timeline PDF I found a while back. I think it was on the World Building sub. It was a timeline of humanity that started it off relatively normal, detailing human evolution as they colonized Mars and the stars beyond. It descended into body horror when they came into contact with advanced race that for some reason I forget gene-modded the majority of humans into non-sentient species and seeded them across the galaxy. It then went into great detail with each of these species separately and their climb back to sentience. It ended with one of the new humans that evolved back to sentience standing beside a original human skull. I haven't been able to find it since, but SHT got dark. I read about the Japanese concentration camps being especially horrible on Reddit, and that was extremely depressing and effed up, but I couldn't bring myself to stop reading. Plants can exhibit Pavlov's behavior, meaning they remember and can be trained, even though they have nothing that we can describe as a brain or a neural network. Study shows plants can learn from experience. Plants remember. Here's the evidence. Plants can make memories. Blogs by people who are obsessed with losing limbs and or having them replaced with hooks, etc. Some went through with accidents where they mashed their hands beyond repair in order to achieve their goal. The murder of Junko Furuta. Looking up pictures of people who hit the ground after falling from great heights. I looked it up mostly out of morbid curiosity. Definitely would not recommend for anyone with a weak stomach. Serial killers. Never could understand what could drive someone into such depravity. People sometimes mistake my curiosity for them as a fandom. I despise them. They just piqued my curiosity. Something about trying to comprehend the incomprehensible that makes it so interesting. Unit 731. What they did is really effed up. In other tests, subjects were deprived of food and water to determine the length of time until death, placed into low-pressure chambers until their eyes popped from the sockets, experimented upon to determine the relationship between temperature, burns, and human survival, electrocuted, placed into centrifuges and spun until death, injected with animal blood, exposed to lethal doses of X-rays, subjected to various chemical weapons inside gas chambers, injected with seawater, and burned or buried alive. The group stalking sites and subreddit. Just to be clear, I don't think it's real. It's just so crazy thinking about how all these people are dead-ass convinced that there are massive conspiracies against them. Jonestown Massacre, a cult lead town that all were coerced into suicide. There's an audio recording on YouTube of the whole town committing mass suicide. Albert Fish, a cannibal serial killer that wrote a letter to the parents of one of the little girls he ate. I have fallen down too. Both lasted about a week. First was John/Jane Does who have never been claimed or identified. Second was people who have disappeared without a trace. I feel this one tugged more on my emotional strings, especially stories involving kids. One that has stuck with me is a little boy who disappeared on a scout hike, Jared Negrete. That is one of my greatest fears when I take kids hiking. Cave diving accidents. They're always tragic and sad and insanely common in the community due to the dangers of cave diving. But they have been to some of the most untouched areas of Earth, and I kind of get the need to keep exploring even if it's dangerous. Deaths on Mount Everest and how a lot of the bodies are still up there. This was a wiki rabbit hole I fell into after listening to the Case File episode on David Sharp. Read not only about him but also Green Boots, this couple that got separated, etc. due to the extremely cold temperatures. The bodies aren't that decomposed, so they still look recent even though it's been years or decades. It's creepy and sad. Some bodies have been there so long they are used as markers for climbers. What is also sad is that there have been efforts to remove them, but doing so is extremely dangerous because of the altitude, temperatures, and uneven ground. People have died attempting it in the past. Not sure if they've managed to succeed since I last read about it in 2018. One of the weirdest for me was reading about the violence in Yugoslavia during World War II, especially about the Croatian Ustase and the Jasenovac concentration camp. The entire area was beset by civil war, with shocking violence originating from multiple parties, but the anecdotes about the Ustase stand out. A high-ranking member of the Nazi Party visited Croatia, where the Nazis had helped establish a puppet state. Witnessing the extent of the violence himself, he was quoted as saying, "This is enough to make a man vomit." Yasenovats is something no mortal man could bear to witness. Saudi Arabia's leading executioner, Mohammed Saad al-Beshi. He mostly decapitates people with a sword. I watched/read interviews with him. I wanted to know if that SHT haunts him. No, it doesn't. He's already teaching his son to follow in his footsteps. His children also help him clean the blood off his sword. Then I started looking into what was considered capital offenses and other punishments used. Stoning is one. Certain crimes will get the beheaded body crucified. A straightforward guy wrote down his experiences with heroin. Basically he wanted to try it for fun and he was sure that he had enough willpower to stop after that. Well, he was wrong. Probably someone can remember the name of the guy or the Reddit post. It's fairly well known, I believe. Bug chasers. Because someone asked what the creepiest, most disturbing internet rabbit hole was. I once found a fetish forum for people who collect STDs and deliberately infect others as it turns them on. Full-on discussions about which hookers to bareback to get the complete set. Really freaked me out more than b0g.org etc. ever did. I can't even remember how I found it. I backed away quickly and never looked back. SCPs. They're not that scary for the most part, but I came across this one called the Uleman and now I lock my windows every night. Not so much went down the rabbit hole willingly, but got shoved. A League of Legends friend came out to me as a pedophile, age range of attraction 3 to 4, he confessed every last feeling he had, and I just sat on my headset in complete stunned silence as he explained how he felt trapped because of his attractions, hated himself, wanted to die. I was stupid, and didn't try to figure out how to record anything. He claimed he hadn't done anything, but admitted some sketchy things that I would not agree were victimless actions. Stopped talking to him, and his accounts disappeared from my friends' lists. Part of me agrees with some frustrations he had with seeking help from professionals, and how many societal blockers we have for someone to get resources to prevent a non-offender from building up to actual action. It just struck me how young he sounded, clearly in college. I still really don't know how to process it. Revulsion and pity is all I can identify about how I feel about the conversation. I won't let myself give the token I hope he got the help he needed because I genuinely think that there just aren't the resources out there for that sort of thing, so saying it would feel trite and lack meaning. I haven't played LoL since. The memories are just too real after all these years. Especially when I realized he would always play the characters Annie or Tristana, a child, and a gnomish creature that looks like a child. Just ugh. I bought my brother a taser from Amazon for his birthday one time. Looking at some of the questions, there was one asking if it hurt. The answer went something like, "It does not. I've tased myself in the neck 30 times. Very interested in this. I go to his Amazon profile where you can see what else he has reviewed, and he reviewed a katana and stuff like that of similar nature. Still interested, so I type his name into Facebook and find a profile with a picture of him holding his katana. The first thing I notice is that he's from my city. Second thing is there are so many people posting to his Facebook saying he's the devil and they can't believe what he'd done and that they hope he rots and stuff like that. Extremely interested at this point, I Google his name and find news articles that he stabbed a guy in the chest in his apartment with a katana. Then fled and was later caught by police. Turns out he was very delusional and really needed help. He's now in jail, and according to the article looks like he's getting the help he needs. It was a very wild ride from just looking at the stupid questions people ask about products on Amazon. Pulled up a site once that had pictures of celebs that were taken after they died, the most prominent one I remember being that of Chris Farley. Fuck, that's something I'll never forget. Researching attachment therapy, as used on kids diagnosed with attachment disorders, aka holding time, compression therapy, coercive restraint therapy, rebirthing. I don't feel like typing out the details, but a quote from Wiki and link is below. It's messed up and has resulted in several child deaths and lots of long-lasting trauma. I have no idea why I kept reading and watching videos, etc., but I spent an entire night researching it. It was horrifying. Maybe I felt like I owed it to the victims to read their stories. I don't remember. A central feature of many of these therapies is the use of psychological, physical, or aggressive means to provoke the child to catharsis, ventilation of rage, or other sorts of acute emotional discharge. To do this, a variety of coercive techniques are used, including scheduled holding, binding, Ribcage stimulation, e.g., tickling, pinching, knuckling, and/or licking. Children may be held down, may have several adults lie on top of them, or their faces may be held so they can be forced to engage in prolonged eye contact. Sessions may last from 3 to 5 hours, with some sessions reportedly lasting longer. This will sound mild compared to the stories of actual torture and war crimes, but I heard the whole story about a Reddit user named Jason in Hell. For those who don't know, it was the real story of a man who posted in r/relationships about his wife cheating on him with a neighbor. Jason finally decides he's going to leave his wife and take the kids with him, but then the wife actually murdered the children while he was away at work. Jason made a follow-up post about dealing with the pain and grief of what happened, but he seems to be doing his best despite everything that happened. Damn, I wish I remember his name. Years ago I watched a video on YouTube of Elvis' last phone call which was recorded. In the comments there was this guy who had claimed to know Elvis personally and who went on about how he was in his final days. I grew very suspicious. I clicked his YouTube channel and found more comments on other dead celebrity videos of him claiming to be a family friend. I searched this guy's name and found his weird-ass F-King website. It was the most bizarre SHT I've ever seen. It was full of long posts about how this guy was a lead designer and architect in some important buildings worldwide. It also chronicled all of his celebrity friends. Guy was definitely schizophrenic, I assume. Finding his website was just so odd. It's like looking into a portal into his mind. Since then I've become very interested in schizophrenia and I've happened to stumble upon others who seem to have it. This one guy on LinkedIn is a writer. He goes on these rambles on his LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter about a girl who was killed. But his sentences are all circular, if that makes sense, almost like talking with someone with dementia who keep repeating the same thing over and over. Except this guy has been doing the same thing for years. Just lost in a possible fairy tale. The mind is effed. This isn't really that great of an answer as it's the first thing that comes to mind, but I watched a lot of To Catch a Predator footage early in COVID. Those people are disgusting, and it's so weird to see some plain-ass dude be otherwise totally normal seeming, but have disgusting desires, and then turn into a lying machine when they get caught. That moment when someone realizes they are exposed, millions of people are going to know, and they are also going to lose their career/job, family, friends, etc. is just a very complex, interesting and gross human reaction to see. Something about Ethereal Snake's animations are both whimsical and creepy at the same time. It's a weird combination. Take, for example, Thomas was only following orders. Or Mickey never came back. It's excellent storytelling. The animation is decent, music kicks in at just the right time. Comfort Women by the Imperial Japanese Army, very few women being forced to service, have sex with, the whole military for endless times? That messed me up. There's a doc called The Bridge, which captured 23 of the 24 suicides from the Golden Gate Bridge in SF in 2004. Apparently the bridge is a wildly popular suicide site. By 2004, there had been more than 1,200 suicides, with a 98% death rate. Anyway, it's really dark and sent me on a little research expedition of the suicides. Apparently, the 2% that survive say they instantly regretted jumping mid-air, and that starts to make you think about suicides and how much pain people are in to take that step, and yet there is a shock of clarity once they've done the irreversible. Just reading about that desperation and sadness triggered so much in me, I really can't go down those rabbit holes anymore. I don't remember why. But I started just seeing bad news. I just searched for the worst news, and I can confirm after 2 hours I managed to cause damage to my soul and had to take a walk. Individual humans are not prepared to tolerate all the bad things that happen around the world. Please don't do this to yourself. You'll feel like shattered glass for 3 hours. Elin School. It's pretty famous, but for those who never heard of it, American school that lasted for 40 years that was as close to a concentration camp for children as you could get. History of the Aztecs and Mayans. Specifically about all the human sacrifice they did. I think the Aztecs sacrificed at least one person a day, and there was one event that historians/archaeologists speculated some number in the thousands. Super interesting, but must have been nuts to come across that as an outsider. I came across a site called Rotten.com about 20 years ago. It was nothing but crime scene and autopsy photos. The things people can do to another is unspeakable. There's this guy on Facebook, I wish I could remember his name, but he married his ex doll and has photos together of them everywhere. At first I thought it was a troll account, but the more I looked the creepier it got. The dates on the photos dated back years and he showed off his doll's wardrobe and all the possessions he had of hers. And then, if you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.